We're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor here on Kingdom of Honor's YouTube page. Hopefully, eventually, it'll be on the. Stu is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming as such. View.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It does that to me a lot too.
Okay, so I guess it is going live. It just wasn't telling me that it was. So, all right. So we're live here on LFE Radio as well. Sorry, guys. Technical issues. I'm working with as I mentioned on Mondays on our Patreon, on our show on YouTube on our Kingdom of Honor channel regarding Lock and Key. My puppy chewed my cord for my laptop in half, so I'm working with a notebook I haven't used in probably like a year. So it's really slow and needs to be updated, which I didn't know until I logged in today. So,
well, we did have with the exception of my voice on YouTube, we have had quite a run of non-technical error shows. So it was only time. It was only time it was time before there wasn't much more time before we were going to have some issues again.
And now my dog is sitting here growling about my puppy chewing on a plastic bone. So, Savannah, calm down. It's just a toy. Okay. Anyway.
That's about as exciting as tonight's show was.
I thought it was a good show, actually.
I thought it felt more like a recap show than I've ever seen AEW do before. It threw me off.
Yeah, that's true. They did have a lot of previously on, which kind of irritated the hell out of me. But I was thinking watching the opening match, which for those of you who didn't watch tonight was a World Tag Team title match, the first defense of the tag team titles in 3 months, as Paige and Omega defended against Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. And over the years, Jeff, I wouldn't say always, but often there's been this one guy in wrestling you can point to as who's the best hot tag in wrestling, right? I mean, it was Ricky Morton for a long time. It's probably Nick Jackson right now. For a while there, it was Jason Jordan. For a while, it was probably Chris Harris of A&W. It was Scott Steiner for a while in WCW as part of the Steiner brothers.
Do you really think it was Chris Harris above James Storm? James Storm had some really hot tags.
Okay, maybe it was Storm. I don't know. I mean, I guess right now we're watching heel AEW, so it's kind of hard for me to go back and think about who was the better of the baby faces,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I was thinking that watching Hangman and Omega, they're both such great hot tags.
Yeah, they really are.
And I think that them and also Mustache Mountain are two teams that I can think of that are currently teams that have just both guys are just fantastic once they get that hot tag in.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many times they can do it. Typically, you have a hot tag once a match, but tonight they had at least 3 during this match. Right,
exactly, and they were both great. And I mean, for Paige, I think he started developing that really well in the World Tag League in NJPW, where he would come in and he would just be lights out with it. So I think this is really playing to that strength that he built up over the last couple of years in the World Tag League.
One thing that we don't really talk about too much is that you've got, usually with a tag team, you've got speed, you've got one guy's the speed agility guy, the other guy's the powerhouse guy. You don't have that with these guys. They're both all 3. They have time. They both have moments where they're the powerhouse guy and they can come in. And I mean, Hangman might strike a little more than Kenny does, but Kenny definitely has his power moves too. And then they're both really quick. They're both really agile. They move really well around the ring. So when it comes to the hot tag, it's usually the faster, more athletic guy that's the guy that leads the hot tag, and that's what makes it so great. And I guess with the exception of Scott Steiner, he was always the powerhouse. But I think with both guys having all 3 of those characteristics, it's easy for them both to do it. But I don't remember a time when I've ever seen them have that many hot tags in one match.
They probably did against the Bucks, actually.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it just struck me watching them is because I watched Kenny get that hot tag and I was like, wow, Paige is a great hot tag too. So I mean, it just struck me that these guys, and really, I mean, this is a team that, to me, really doesn't have any weaknesses other than their just lack of experience teaming with each other.
Right, and I mean they've proven time and time again that that doesn't matter. I mean, they seem to have a really good chemistry together.
Yeah, this is one of those teams that proves that thing that Tony Schiavone always used to say on WCW that I always thought was ridiculous, which was, in order to be a great tag team wrestler, you first have to be two great singles wrestlers.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, they definitely proved that here. Leave the kitty alone for now if she's going to be like that. This
Your
is
cat's
what.
going nuts, your kid's going nuts, and my dogs are going nuts. So
Yeah,
this is fun.
it's typical. It's typical. The cat and Arlo are fighting right now. The cat wants to play and Arlo doesn't want to. So there's
Yeah.
that. There's that.
So I thought it was a pretty good tag match to open the show. I was at first disappointed that wasn't later on in the show than it was, but at the same time, obviously it couldn't trump the the grumpiest TNT champion of all time defending his title later in the show.
I
Um,
see,
so
and I thought that was a great match too. I had a couple of issues with it. It's sad that we've gotten to that point with Cody, where in order for him to overcome obstacles, we literally have to throw him through a table with another man falling on top of him, and have him
and have him
busted wide open.
headbutt himself into a guardrail too.
That's what we've gotten to with Cody, where he looks so strong all the time that we've gotten to that point where we have to actually draw drama. That on a main event on a throwaway Wednesday show, he's busted open and going through a table. And not just going through a table. It's not like they laid him out on the table or they pushed him through the table. He fell off the top rope through a table and then had a 200-pound man fall on top of him at the same time.
Right.
So it was even more devastating than a normal table shot would have, or table spot would have been.
Very true. Yeah, it was a good match. I'm just struggling with. I still struggle with, with the way they're portraying Cody. I struggle with Jungle Boy being his first opponent. I fucking hate JR calling Jungle Boy matches, as you know.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't a fan of the Jungle Boy MJF little bit there in the middle. Like,
no.
This was a point where Jungle Boy, he's in the middle of a championship match. He's the challenger. He has the champion reeling in a prime spot, and he takes time out to get into an argument with MJF.
And MJF, distracting Cody's opponent during a match doesn't make a lot of sense either.
No.
Considering the bad blood between the two of them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the match itself, if you take out those 3 moments, I think the match was wonderful. But those 3 moments kind of brought it down a little bit.
Sort of the ending with Cody getting the pin.
Well, yeah, and here we're in another situation where, you've got, okay, only one crossroads it took to defeat Jungle Boy, so does that mean that he had to give 2 to Archer? Didn't he give 1 or 2 to MJF? No, he lost to MJF. But
he did give 2 to MJF, but he lost to him.
Right, because he went for that 3rd one. It's like we're running into a situation where even the crossroads isn't becoming as believable as it probably should be. And I know I've been down on Cody just because I don't like the fact that he's being pushed as a top babyface when he's clearly a heel. But it's one of those things that we're running into dangerous territory with that, with his use of the crossroads and how he's defeating different opponents.
Yeah, I mean, and the crossroads really has been something that people have been kicking out of for like the last 3 years now.
Right.
So I mean, it really doesn't even feel like a finisher to me anymore.
Yeah.
I wish you go back to using the vertebraker like you started doing on the Indies.
Yeah, or
well, I guess Indies as a stretch, ROH and NJPW.
There was a while that he used the Unprettier too, which I wouldn't mind seeing him do again.
Did he?
It was brief, very brief.
Okay.
It was, if I remember right, it was when he was tagging with Ted DiBiase Jr.
Oh, okay. So not outside of WWE then, you're
No,
saying.
the disaster kick came once he went to SmackDown and started wearing the face mask and the mustache and everything, and then Crossroads came shortly after that. But while he was tagging with Ted DiBiase, he was using a version of the Unprettier.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I do remember that too. Um, I was thinking you were talking about when he was wrestling for Ring of Honor or
No,
Impact. I was like,
no,
what?
no,
So
no. No, I was going way back in the day. It's kind of like what's the move that Okada used to use? Heavy Rain, was it?
yeah.
What that I wish he'd go back to because I like it so much better in the Rainmaker.
At this one, I just wish Okada would wrestle again.
Well, yeah, there's
I
that.
don't
I
care.
mean,
I don't care.
I
I don't care what he
I
uses.
was thinking that earlier this week. It's like God, I miss NJPW. Oh, it was on Monday uh when my monthly subscription hit my card and I got the notification. I'm like, God, I miss that channel. I really want to see some NJPW again soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty we can watch on there, but yeah, I mean, I want to see some live stuff also. And I did. I mean, they're. It looks like they're like laying the groundwork to do empty arena shows, but what that's going to look like and when it's going to happen, we're probably still like at least a month out from that, I think.
Right.
You know, and I did see the official word today, and it was actually announced like a month ago, but I missed it that Wrestle Dynasty was postponed until 2021, which isn't not surprising, but it's disappointing.
Well, I wonder, are they just going to be done with the G1? Are they even going to do that this year? Are they? I mean, that's basically what Wrestle Kingdom is based around. So
No, I said Wrestle Dynasty was not Wrestle Kingdom.
yeah, yeah, I know, but I'm just wondering if, I mean, with the
Well,
way
the
things are
funny thing
going,
is,
like
and
we,
this, I guess this isn't funny so much as just kind of the business as usual. But the but I mean, just for lack of a better term, the funny thing is that G1 was postponed to October this year because the Summer Olympics were supposed to be happening in Japan.
right?
Well, now the Summer Olympics aren't going to be happening in Japan, so theoretically they could actually do the G1 during the regular time frame this year.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we missed out on the New Japan Cup. We missed out on Dominion. That should have been what, this weekend or next weekend?
Next, I think Best of the Super Junior should be going on right now.
Right. Yeah, we're missing out on Best of Super Juniors. So I mean, there's a lot of NJPW that I'm missing, that I really, really am missing watching.
Yeah, I mean we all are. So I mean it's some of the smaller promotions over there like Dragon Gate and DDT I think are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. They have been running into empty arena shows, but NJPW chose not to. NJPW kind of took the moral stance to be the leader and just be like, no, we're not doing this.
Right.
So
Well, kudos for them. I mean, to be
yeah,
honest, they're the only company that wasn't letting the stress and pressure of social media and everything get to them.
not that this is an actual thing, but it kind of feels like the universe is saying Tetsuya Naito should never be world champion.
Unfortunately, you're right. Oh, poor Tetsu. Anyway, back to this show. To me, it just felt like one big recap show, which we've never really seen before with AEW. So I wonder what their reasoning with going that route. I don't think we had. I mean, normally we've got the 5 matches. The one tag match, the main event. There's the women's match. There's a singles match. And then usually there's one other match, either another tag or another singles match or something. But this time we only got 4. We only got 4 matches. One of them a squash match again, which I'm at a point where we just saw this with Archer. I kind of want to see, and we saw with Archer doing it better because Archer started doing it against better opponents than Brian Cage. Now Brian Cage is on his second week of jobbers.
We had 5 matches tonight.
Did we?
Yeah, we had the tag team title match. We had the TNT championship match. We had the women's match. We had the squash match. Then we had Jericho against Colt Cabana.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I don't. I understand why you're saying that it felt like a recap show because they did show like a lot of things that had happened in the previous couple of weeks, but I mean there was still like a lot of action on the show. There's also a lot of moving the story forward.
Well, and a lot
Some
of
interesting
character
things
development
going
too.
on.
They did a lot of character development too with the backstage interviews. I think
Right.
this might have been the most they've spent on backstage interviews ever.
Right, and that's why to me it didn't feel like a recash. I mean, I see where where that is coming from for you, but I mean,
Maybe it's
um,
because they did it so much more than normal. Like, I don't remember a Dynamite that's ever opened up with a 3 minute recap of what happened last week.
no, that kind of like I kind of looked at that and I'm like, what the hell?
Right. And then
And
not only
maybe just because it wasn't a live episode again. I don't
and
know.
then not only that, but then to recap it all again throughout the night. It wasn't like it was the first recap that they showed the recap. They showed it at the beginning of the show, but then to do it again multiple times throughout the night to re-show the same stuff they showed at the beginning, that I think that might be where it made me feel that way. I do like the progression of storylines and characters that they did. I thought they were fantastic with that, especially Lance Archer. I mean, when Jake Roberts is scared of Lance Archer, that's what he needs for his character. I like the Cole Cabana stuff. I like the Private Party and the Team Extreme Matt Hardy, and then Matt Hardy giving Sammy Guevara props. That all that stuff was great character development, and I loved it. It just maybe it was the fact that they rehashed last week's show so many times that it made me feel that way.
Yeah, it must have been. Because I mean I bet you they spent less than 10 minutes on that combined.
Oh, probably, yeah, yeah.
Um, I am really happy with the way they're portraying Cash Wheeler and Dax Wilder or Dax Hardwood so far.
I am too.
I really for the last 3 years or so, you and I didn't see much of the Revival because we weren't watching WWE proper, and plus they each had those horrific injuries like right after each other.
Right.
And watching them like be portrayed here and kind of seeing them talking about it, making them feel like a big deal. I'm feeling like as a lapsed fan of theirs, I'm feeling that energy again, and
Right.
and I'm really appreciative of the way they're doing that kind of stuff with
Yeah, I am too. I just wish that they wouldn't have said what they did, because it really didn't make much sense when they were
about
talking.
about FTR.
No, about the fact that they want to face the Young Bucks when no one has a back injury or no one has a this injury or that injury, or they can't be blamed for being beaten up by Butcher and Blade. I'm like, well, then why isn't that being your first match? You are both coming off of lengthy absences where your injuries have healed. You haven't faced anybody else. That the logic wasn't there.
Well, no, it was because you missed part of what the deal was because he also said when they don't have rib injuries, and Jackson is still nursing that rib injury.
Oh, okay.
Matt is.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. Okay. All
So
right.
they
Yeah.
went them at completely 100%.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I guess I didn't think of that. I was just thinking, hey, you guys literally neither one of you two or four have been wrestling for the last 2 months. I completely forgot that Matt hurt himself in that Dynamite right before Double or Nothing.
Right. Gotcha. And I'm glad they're having that match against Butcher and Blade. I mean, they set it up well last week. It made sense that Butcher and Blade would be upset about being jumped while they were jumping the Bucks. So I mean, I think it's good that they're following through on it, which is great because that's something that we wouldn't have always seen from the other company that they were just in.
Well, and I like the fact that they're bringing them in as baby faces and not trying to turn them heel right away, because the crowds want to cheer them, the fans want to cheer them because of their reputation. But the same fact, it's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to them being baby faces.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, but I didn't even get a babyface buzz from them tonight. I think they're going to be, and I'm hoping they're going to be just characters, just people that are
kind of like a Moxley.
Yeah, like Moxley. But I mean, I really don't want them to be, because to me, them being babyface would be them going against type.
Right.
And I'm really not a fan of that happening necessarily.
Well, they're such a great heel tag team. I mean,
Right.
there was a reason why 4 years ago, they were considered one of the best in the world because they were. And they were so great as heels. The no flips and just fists, theme that they did, everything about them was great. Um, I loved it, and I don't want to see them divulge into a babyface tag team. Cutting
I'm
maybe
interested to
going
see
the.
what they. I'm interested to see what they call their finisher now because apparently they can't use Shatter Machine.
Ugh,
So
why do they have to copyright everything?
I didn't even think you could copyright a finishing move because I mean Christian was able to use call his move the Unprettier when he moved to TNA. Kurting. It's always been the angle slam. Um, I mean, it was Livingston. I mean, obviously that's his last name also, but I mean, I've never, there was still the Swanton when Jeff Hardy went to TNA.
Well, they
There's still the
can't.
Twist of Fate. Wherever Matt went.
I know
So
they can't call the disaster kick a beautiful disaster anymore.
why is that?
I don't know, but I've watched. They did it in Ring of Honor. They did it in Japan. Now they're doing it in AEW, where they're just calling it the disaster kick.
But they called it that in WWE for years too.
Yeah, but it was more. It was referred to more as a beautiful disaster
I
when it
wonder if
was,
it just had,
especially when it was his
something to do
finisher.
with whoever whoever invented that song wanted them to pay for using it or something.
Oh, maybe, possibly, but I know that when it was his finisher, it was a beautiful disaster.
Right.
And
I
then
still
it
call it
just
that.
Yeah, I do too. But I know it warped to disaster kick. And I thought there was a while where they couldn't call it the Crossroads either.
I don't remember that at all. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't remember them not being able to use that.
I don't know. I remember it happening a few other times with certain finishers where once they leave whatever company, it gets renamed something else.
Right.
But
Speaking of while we're on Cody again, I'm a little bit excited, but also a little bit irritated about next week's match that he has against Ray Phoenix. I'm excited to see Ray Phoenix
it's
in
not Ray
action.
Phoenix, it's Mark Quinn.
I thought it was Ray Phoenix.
No, Mark Quinn.
Why did they say Ray Phoenix?
They didn't. They said maybe they did at the end of the show, but they actually had a graphic where it was Mark Quinn was going to face the winner of Jungle Boy or Cody. Which kind of, to me, takes a little bit out of this open challenge thing if you're going to announce it a week ahead of time.
Yeah, because what has Mark Quinn done to earn a title shot?
Right, and if you're going to announce it a week ahead of time, it's got to be somebody that actually deserves the title shot. And if you're going to do an open challenge, if Lance Archer doesn't come out there every single week to take the challenge, how does that, until he wins it, it's just not going to feel right. Especially after his promo tonight. I mean, I thought the way I was like, well, next week it's going to be Cody versus Lance. It's the only thing that makes sense. With how fired up he was and how badly he wants the title and to prove that that one loss doesn't matter. It just, to me, it was screaming, he's going to be the first to accept the open challenge. And then almost right after that, they announced Mark Quinn versus whoever the winner was next week.
Yeah, I wonder why I heard it as Ray Phoenix. That's kind of weird. Because I swear I heard them say Ray Phoenix.
It's a possibility they did. I didn't, I was getting set up, so I didn't exactly hear what JR was saying, JR and Tony and everybody was saying, but they made a couple of mistakes tonight where they mentioned wrong names and things like that. So it's possible that maybe somebody had said Ray Phoenix. But I do know I saw the graphic, and the first thing I went was, what? Why? Secondly, why are we announcing who the opponent's going to be a week ahead of time? And the whole thing about an open challenge is to catch the champion off guard.
Right.
That's what makes the open challenge so great. But then when you're announcing a week ahead of time, and then it's not only somebody that isn't really in the title hunt, but it's somebody who's never wrestled a singles match in your company, and somebody who hasn't done anything to really deserve the spotlight.
Right. I mean, I guess in my opinion, if they were ever gonna, if you ever do split up and they were gonna go their singles ways, Quen would be the obvious breakout star to me. So I mean, I guess that in that case, in that sense, it kind of makes sense. But yeah,
I mean, I just don't think if you're gonna do an open challenge, you just absolutely do not announce it the week before.
I agree. And like I said last week, what was the point of Cody announcing the open challenge and then nobody coming out to challenge him?
Right, yeah, exactly. You come out there and scream, we're going to have an open challenge. As soon as you say that, somebody's music should have hit and you should have been in the middle of the match.
Right. Exactly.
If you want to take it that way, John Cena's U.S. Open challenge was done so much better because his was a true open challenge.
Right. And I do think that the TNT Championship should be defended every week.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely, and I think it should be only on TV. I don't think it should be on the pay-per-views unless, unless it's part of a feud or something. I just don't, I'm right there with you. I think it should be an every week thing, and I don't mind seeing a championship defended every week. It's not going to take anything away from it for me.
No, especially a TV style title.
And it's going to do some, amazing things. Like let's just say, had Jungle Boy won it tonight and went on and continued the open challenge thing and went out there every single week and defended the title. All of a sudden, you've got a mega superstar in your hands, much like they did with Randy Savage back in the day with the Intercontinental title, while Hulk Hogan was taking 2-3 months off and Savage was on every other week defending the title.
Right. So, talking about Dynamite, moving on to talk about Fyter Fest just a little bit. So it's an interesting. They've announced that this year it's going to be on Wednesday nights and it's going to be on two straight weeks, kind of the way they did with Bash at the Beach earlier this year. But did I see it wrong that they had the times listed as starting at 9 o'clock Central Time?
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. I also think the mistake where you had JR announcing Fyter Fest, which hasn't been scheduled yet, it'll just be sometime this summer, and then coming out of the very next commercial break, they announced that it's going to be July 1st and July 8th.
Yeah, I think the reason for that was simply that the show was pre-recorded and then the graphic was showing the dates, but the announcers never said the dates on it.
Although you need to stop.
But I thought it was interesting you said it was at 9 o'clock Central Time because that would mean that it would be like right after Dynamite goes off the air rather than being an episode of Dynamite.
Right. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'll have to look more into that, but I thought I saw that too. So I was hoping it was a typo. I figured they would just do 2 back-to-back Dynamites, kind of like they did with with Impact earlier this year and Bash at the Beach, in January, where it was two back-to-back Dynamites.
That's what I was thinking as well. That's why I thought that the times they had listed were so weird.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
I guess so.
It's a month away. I'm sure next week there'll be more clarification. And if it's you were saying it wrong again next week, and I couldn't tell if this was taped or not. I assumed it was because there was no picture-in-picture. But they didn't. I guess the fact that they didn't say we're live 400 times too should have tipped me off.
I assumed it was live. It was taped also because there was no picture-in-picture.
But
I also think it's a good tip-off that they said Fyter Fest hasn't been scheduled yet, and the graphic was showing the dates that was happening.
Like literally 30 seconds later, the graphics all of a sudden up saying that it's happening. Literally, JR said, at a time and date to be determined, and then the next graphic was Fyter Fest.
Right, exactly. And we didn't mention yet that your favorite women's wrestler was on the show tonight in a match.
I've been trying to avoid that. Is it just me or would this have been a good spot for Big Swole to lose? I'm sorry, not Big Swole, but Nyla Jax to lose, or Nyla Jax. What is Nyla Rose to lose?
Well, it depends what they want to do. I mean, if they're setting up to have a rematch against Shida, it makes sense for her to win.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely wouldn't have hurt Rose at all to lose here. She's in the top 5. Swole's only had 4 total matches or something since she signed. So yeah, I do think it would have. I don't think it would have been a bad idea for Rose to lose tonight. I mean, but I guess I'm not going to I'm not going to say that she should have lost necessarily.
I mean, I guess we haven't had a real good Broken Beast storyline in so long that I kind of wanted to see it. Where she all of a sudden can't get a win because she lost and she just loses her mind and goes even more badass than she already is.
I think that maybe a year from now I'll be ready for that, but considering that the story with her for the first 6 months of the promotion was that she couldn't win any matches because she kept making mistakes in them, I really don't want to see her going on another losing streak.
Oh, yeah. I guess I did again there too. I don't know where my head is tonight because I totally forgot about that too. You're right. They already did that with her. When I was watching this, it's like as much as I dislike Big Swole. That must be Rebby Sky. Is that who that is? Matt Hardy's wife that's with Britt Baker?
I was wondering the exact same thing tonight because I think didn't she call her Rebby or Rebecca or something?
She called her Rebby.
Yeah. Okay.
And last week I thought she called her Rebel.
I think she did too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got to be who it is Rebby Sky. It's got to be Matt Hardy's wife. It's the only thing I can think of. I guess I didn't really, I wasn't really following TNA during that time, so I never really saw a whole much of her. Just a few pictures, and we haven't gotten a real close up of her either. But it kind of, I know she called her Rebel last week, and she called her Rebby tonight.
Right. Yeah. No, I noticed that too. So I'm just not, it would not. I kind of wanted the same thing tonight, and it definitely could be. If so, I'm a little bit sad that they're not using her as part of the Broken Family instead.
Or in the ring. She was pretty talented, from what I understand, when she was in Impact.
I don't remember ever seeing her actually wrestle before. Though.
I haven't either. I'm just kind of going off what I'd heard about her.
Okay.
I know she was doing in-ring work. And what's going on with Allie and QT Marshall?
No idea.
And why is Allie's real-life husband, why is that not becoming a storyline?
No idea. I was wondering both of those things also.
And the fact that the announcers...
And why does Allie keep going for guys that are no longer that are way below her league?
Well, the thing that made me laugh was that they were mocking Sammy's singing and saying that it was a love song for Allie and QT, which I thought was kind of funny.
I thought Jericho's reaction as Sammy was singing him out of the ring was just fantastic. He was clearly like he could not stay in character. He was laughing so hard.
Well, Sammy did such a great job of doing a bad job that it was fantastic. Like there were a couple times where he went blah 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 instead of the actual lyrics, and then starting the lyrics before they actually did or after they actually did. It was classic. It was absolutely perfect. He is one hell of an entertainer.
Yes. And we get to see him in the ring next week against your buddy Colt Cabana.
Yeah, and I wonder, maybe
I don't know why I said your buddy. We both like the guy.
I love Colt Cabana. I think when he's on, he's fantastic. I love some of the work that he's done, just because he does such a good job of mixing in comedy with his actual in-ring ability.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that before where I think his match at NWA 70 is a perfect example of it, that fatal four-way that they had, right, where he literally took off the glove and slapped everybody, including the referee, with it, and then started apologizing to the referee, and then, but then actually went out and actually performed really well.
I really loved in that match against Jericho tonight, that spot where he went for a Superman pin and Jericho turned it into the Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, almost
because I just think that it was such a smart spot to do.
Yeah, it really was. It was timed a little badly, but I really did enjoy the fact that it happened that way. Where Jericho was able to kind of lure him in and then turn it into the Walls.
Right. Yeah, I guess I ignored the poor. I mean, I agree with poorly executed, but I mean, I ignored that just because I like the idea of the spot so much.
And did they call it the walls or did they call it the Lion Tamer?
They called it the Lion Tamer, but it wasn't the
Okay.
Lion Tamer. It was the Walls.
Well, it technically was the Lion Tamer before the Walls of Jericho.
The Lion Tamer is a different move than the Walls of Jericho.
No, it's still that.
The Lion Tamer is the elevated version
Boston
of
Crab.
high angle Boston Crab, and the Walls of Jericho has always been just a regular Boston Crab.
I thought the Lion Tamer was the one where he put the knee in the back.
Exactly, and he doesn't do that. He hasn't, and he never did that in WWE other than rarely.
Oh wow! I guess I never really because he didn't use the walls as a finisher very often.
He did in WWE, he never used it in WCW.
Well, yeah, I mean it was called the Walls of Jericho, but it wasn't. When he was using that move, it was more of a transitional move before the Lion Salt.
Yeah, you're really out of it tonight. He never used the Lion Salt as a finisher.
Didn't he? Wow.
In WWE, that was an ECW finisher.
I need some sleep. Didn't he have something else though that he used in WWE? It wasn't always the walls.
Yeah, the Codebreaker.
Well, the Codebreaker was when he came back in 2005 or 6 or whatever.
No, it was the walls was always his finisher.
Oh, I thought there was something else that he did.
Yeah, cheating.
Maybe that's it because he was always a heel, so he didn't, and heels never get submission wins unless you're choking somebody out like Samoa Joe or Shayna Baszler. Heels don't normally get submission wins.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same with Edge too. Like I mean, he didn't have a submission finisher necessarily, but I mean, his spear very rarely won him a match when he was a heel.
Right. Although the ankle lock never failed.
I just looked up Reby Hardy just to see if she was the one on there, and I'm seeing this thing about defending AEW drowning angle from stadiums. Like people were getting on AEW about the drowning angle from the Stadium Stampede match, which I thought was a brilliant spot. So what the hell?
I think we're in just sensitivity mode right now.
Oh, you know what? I bet you it was because it was just after Shad Gaspard died from drowning.
I didn't even think of that. Yep, you're probably right.
Yeah, that is the reason for it. So I guess I can kind of understand
said no.
But at the same time, they didn't. Matt didn't die from the drowning spot either. He just kept,
no.
changing character. So I mean, if they had shown like somebody getting, passing out or dying from that, I can understand it. But I don't know. I'm sure they had that spot planned well in advance of Shad Gaspard's passing.
More than likely. And like I said, I looked at more as a comedy spot. I mean, I guess I didn't even think of it that way.
No, I didn't either. Like you said, people are just too sensitive these days.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's Reby Sky then, because
Speaking of sensitivity, though, I do want to say how I do want to thank AEW for how classy their opening was tonight. Talking about everything going on in the world and sympathizing with races and violence and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I thought they did it well. I like it so much better than what they've done in the past, where they have Cody or the Bucks out there, talking and delivering some kind of speech. I like what they did tonight a whole lot better than that. I was actually not looking forward to Cody in the middle of the ring delivering a heartfelt speech.
No, and really, if it was anybody delivering that speech, it should have been Private Party or
Scorpio Sky or somebody along those lines. But I'm glad
SCU probably would have been the perfect, actually, because then Scorpio could be talking, but he also have his, his two not minority friends standing side by side with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. I am glad that they did what they did tonight. I think that was done very well. They're not saying anything about Reby Hardy being part of AEW, so I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe it is her and they're just not saying it. I don't know. Maybe she's uncredited. is so weird. I don't even know if we're actually live on LP radio right now. But
Well, we're live. Hopefully, we're live somewhere. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time.
I can always find our stream and put it up on the podcast at least.
It wouldn't be the first time that we've done a show just for ourselves.
Well, no, it's coming out. It's coming out on our channel anyway, right?
Yeah.
I
want to know who's pushing the wheelchair.
It's that woman that she calls Rebel or Rebby. And it's not a wheelchair. It's the role model. And tonight it was the Rolls Royce. Remember?
Star Rebel. By former TNA star Rebel, who has been playing Baker's on-screen personal assistant. Well, if it's TNA star Rebel, then it's Reby Sky, which is Matt Hardy's wife.
Rebel is actually Tanya Brooks. It's not Reby Sky.
Wasn't Rebel... Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, I see that now.
I honestly don't even remember her from TNA.
I don't either. This is not... I mean, when was she part of TNA? It must have been... She's 41, so she's been around a while. She started in TNA in 13 through 16, so yeah, when I wasn't watching.
Yeah, I really do not remember her.
I don't either, but she's pretty. she's nice to look at.
I did the other thing. I guess the only thing we didn't really touch on about tonight's show is the interaction between Cage and, well, really more to the Cage / Taz combo and Jon Moxley. And I have to say that, maybe it's just the way they're building it up. I mean, I feel like this is the world title match I'm anticipating more than I have any other since Wrestle Kingdom.
I kind of anticipated the last one quite a bit, only because I really wanted to see Luke Harper go over, or not Luke Harper, Brody Lee. Sorry, Brody. But yeah, I really want to see what they do. I don't know that I'm a fan of this build. I think, Moxley plays a really good tough guy champion, but there too, he's another champion that doesn't seem to overcome any odds ever.
He overcame the Inner Circle and he overcame Dark Order, right?
He overcame Inner Circle, but Dark Order wasn't a challenge. The one guy he faced from Dark Order, he threatened to break his arm, and they walked out and said, "Go ahead, break it."
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I mean, outside of the very first time when they beat him down and Brody walked out with the belt, he didn't really overcome anything.
Yeah, that's true. And I was thinking, watching the show tonight that, it's probably good. It was probably a good thing that we haven't seen Dark Order for a couple of weeks, just to have them kind of like reset a little bit and build back up after the loss to Moxley. And then we saw Lee offer the spot in the Dark Order to Colt Cabana, which I thought was kind of a mistake to have them be on tonight's show.
I don't think so. I like where this story is going with Colt. The only thing that I think would be a detriment is if they change up the fun-loving Colt, because I think that might be the Colt Cabana that I like the most.
So you want to be part of the Dark Order but still be fun-loving?
Well, that's the thing. That's the only reason I don't want to see him as part of the Dark Order, is because I'm afraid they'll end up changing up his character and making him more dark. But who knows? Maybe after 20 years, that might actually be good for Colt to have a different change in character.
Interesting. But I do kind of like the idea of him being the same fun-loving Colt inside the Dark Order, and then that leading to him, in maybe a month and a half or so, just Brody Lee can't take it anymore, and so he ends up being expelled, and then he has a big feud with Cabana.
Unfortunately, I think that might be the best thing for Cody, right, or for Brody Lee in that Dark Order right now.
Why is that unfortunate?
I guess it's probably not.
Okay.
Oh, man, I'm looking up these pictures of, I was already distracted. Now I'm looking up these pictures of Rebel.
All right. So if you're distracted and you just want to go have some personal me time with Rebel,
Oh,
why don't you tell everybody where they can listen to us at?
I get to argue with my child over ice cream because it's 9 o'clock at night and he wants some. 10 o'clock at night and he wants some. So, but anyway,
At least it isn't breakfast.
that's a very good point. A very, very good point. Anyway, you guys, hopefully you're listening to us on one of the two YouTube channels we're on. Our personal Kingdom of Honor channel, which um, we'd love to have you come and check out our shows that we do on there. We do quite a bit of stuff, not just wrestling, which we do twice a week, every week, except for last night. But we also have a pop culture show that we do on there as well. And if you're listening on Lords of Pain Radio, appreciate that as well. Please give a like, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell because you don't want to miss any of the content that comes out. Also, it would be great if you went over and checked out our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Small donation gets you access to a lot of stuff, including our archives, which is every show that Shane and I have ever done, and our exclusive stuff, which goes anywhere from modern pop culture, TV shows to past wrestling events and breakdowns of wrestlers' careers. So, depending on what we're in the mood for, that gets thrown up a lot of times on our Patreon channel, and that's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Also, you can look me up on Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op. He is at ZanmanLOP. Use the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH. That'll get you to anything that we post.
Yes, it will. Speaking of our Patreon, so we haven't done a Ring of Honor show in like over a month now. So maybe we should try to do Final Battle 2011 this coming Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm game.
I have most of the weekend free because Melissa's going to be picking up some hours this weekend. So.
No, I've got my oldest coming up this weekend. So, but
oh, good. I'm glad you're going to get to spend some time with him.
He's a wrestling fan. I wouldn't mind introducing him to some of the stuff like that, so he can see good wrestling and not WWE.
Speaking of which, Ring of Honor has been adding shows in other years now too. So they've added a lot of shows from 2010. They've added shows from 2008. I think I saw they added a couple from 2002, including the very first Ring of Honor show.
Nice.
So, they're adding 50 new classic matches every Friday now too.
Well, that's good. Maybe they're starting to scrub those from before the Sinclair years. So.
Right. I'm just kind of bummed that they have like some from 2008 and like some from 2010, but nothing for 2009. So I can kind of watch the Nigel McGuinness era, but not quite yet.
I'm actually looking forward to going back and seeing a really, really young CD before he went to TNA and watching Austin Aries and guys like that. So that might be something that I'll definitely check out.
Sweet. So. And LOP Radio, stay tuned tomorrow night for MSLOP Radio Adventure. On Friday, actually, I think it's actually happening over the weekends now, so maybe it's on Saturday or Sunday. But WWF The Legacy Series, I believe they're up now to. Last week I think they did the Royal Rumble 1988, so this week they'll be up to the event I thought they were going to be on last week, which is the main event where Andre challenges Hogan for the world title with the whole double referee thing going on and $1 Million Man being involved and all that fun stuff. So, 1988 and 1987 WWF was just fun shit, dude. So.
Yeah, I'd say actually, 80, 86 all the way through about 90 was really fun times.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I meant to ask you this before too, but we could certainly talk about this more in depth at a later time. But they had mentioned on their show that WrestleMania through WrestleMania 6 was it's the greatest run of WrestleManias, and I would include WrestleMania 7 in there. So, I guess it just kind of depends on your taste. But to me, WrestleMania 7 has one of the top 3 WrestleMania matches of all time on it. So I'd have to include WrestleMania 7 in there.
Well, yeah, and WrestleMania 8 is where it kind of started to make a turn. I mean, with the exception of, another one of the greatest all-time WrestleMania matches at WrestleMania 10, really from WrestleMania 8 to what about WrestleMania 12 was really a downtime for them.
Yeah, I would say I would even probably put 13 in there myself.
It's hard for me to put 13 in there with that Austin Hart match.
Well, right. I mean, but to me, one match doesn't make a show.
Unfortunately, I think that might be the one match that made a show.
Okay.
That match was so good that I can, but yeah, maybe you're right, maybe 13, even maybe possibly 14, but 14 was really the rise of DX, and you got that great match between Mankind and Chainsaw Charlie against the New Age Outlaws, and
Well, plus it's also the official crowning of Steve Austin as world champion too.
right, yeah, so
Yeah, I don't think you can include 14 in there, but yeah, I definitely think 1 through 7. I can understand why they would say 6, but I think 7. For me personally.
you still can't beat that run between 3, 4, and 5, though. If you want to look at a stretch of greatness, 3, 4, and 5, it can't be beat.
Depends on how you feel about the world title tournament at Mania 4.
Even with the world title tournament, there's so much great character development and work throughout that entire pay-per-view. The Hogan stuff got a little bit out of control. The fact that it was Hogan versus Andre 3 at that point, so there wasn't really a whole lot of drama behind that. But in all reality, just even the side matches, the tag matches, everything, and I was talking to somebody about that, and it wasn't you, which was odd that I was talking about it. But is there a better time for tag team wrestling? I mean, we look at AEW now and how great their tag division is, but is it better than that late '80s WWF tag team divisions?
No, actually, I meant to bring this up, when I mentioned the tag teams earlier, that, another one of the great hot tags of all time is Tito Santana and Strikeforce.
Yeah. Tito was great. Dynamite Kid was great. You had um, even Rick Martel, I thought, had a great hot tag during that time.
Yeah, and of course, who could forget the Killer Bees?
Oh, well, yeah, nobody had a better hot tag than Jumpin' Jim Brunzell.
Yeah.
And his bouncing, but even Bret Hart did.
Sometimes it wasn't even a hot tag. Sometimes just putting a mask on and doing a sunset flip to get the win.
Well, even Bret Hart was a really great hot tag when they were a heel team, or not a heel team, but a face team.
Yeah.
So I mean, but if I want to look at who had a better tag division right now, I'm actually kind of leaning towards WWE from the late '80s.
There was no WWE in the late '80s.
Well, WWF from the late '80s. Probably from
I'm such a dick sometimes.
Probably from that run in WrestleMania 2 when Dream Team really became a thing. British Bulldogs and Dream Team were a thing, and then you had so many tag teams that came after that.
Well, they definitely have the best mid card championship run of all time in that time period.
Well, yeah, I mean it was Savage, and then even Ricky Steamboat had a pretty decent run too, and then of course Honky Tonk Man.
Well, I mean, come on! It went from Valentine to Tito Santana to Randy Savage to Ricky Steamboat to Honky Tonk, to Warrior to Rude to Warrior. It was just crazy.
You're not wrong there. That was a great mid. Yeah, you know what? I'm having a hard time arguing that 1 through 6 was really great, and then of course I thought 7 was great too. So
right. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry I got sidetracked there. I just thought about that because I kept forgetting to mention it to you.
So. Well, this is what normally happens, especially since we didn't do a show last night, so it was bound to happen.
Yeah, speaking of which, because we didn't do our show last night, next week we'll be talking about Turning Point 2006, continuing our TNA run, and then again, like we talk about Final Battle 2011 on our Patreon show, and then we'll be back with you talking about next week's Dynamite on Dynamite After Dark. Season 2, episode 25 next week, Jeff.
Is it 25? I thought we were on 23. Did I miss this episode somewhere?
I had last week as 23, so maybe I missed one. I don't know.
Oh, I had last week as 22. Huh. What do you know? I might have missed one somewhere. Not a problem. I'll fix that. Until then, we're just going to be an episode behind because I'm not going back and changing shit.
Well, I can always just maybe I should go count all the weeks up to this point, but
That might not be a bad idea. I know we missed a couple there, but I could be off. So, all right, guys, it's been great talking to y'all. Yes, I y'alled y'all.
wow, you went down to Alabama.
Long days,
That's all we've
pleasant
got.
nights, blah blah blah.
Try to
Goodbye,
do it
guys.
next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying all the things Shane should be saying.
Goodbye.